Well, welcome to a new series of Scrum 5 Live. It's a new studio, a brand new season, but thankfully I've got some familiar faces alongside me. Former Wales international Jonathan Davies and former Ospreys coach Sean Holley. And Jonathan, Treviso up first for the Ospreys, defending champions. And I mentioned there it's a tough place to go, but realistically, should it hold much fear for the Ospreys?
Yeah, you never know, what form you're going to start the season with. End of last season they were brilliant and they played, with a smile on their face. And also when you saw them there on the start of the programme, they're smiling, so it was great. I just feel that the focus throughout pre-season is your first game. So wherever you go, you want to nail your first game, and if they can do that, irrespective of how they play, just get a result on the board, and then the season's on a good start for them.
Of course, Sean, they did exactly that last season with a 27-3 opening victory over Leinster. They won 6 in a row at the start, but perhaps most impressive was their end of the season, 7 in a row, including that epic final against Leinster. What was it about them made them so irresistible in that phase? I know you've picked out a few things.
Well, there's lots of things through the season, really, Ross, and I've picked a few things from the analysis. They're the only real out-to-in blitzing team in the league, and they like their low tackles. They challenge this space at the tackle contest, and that affords them legitimate turnovers. They're one of the best counter-attacking teams in the league, taking the line forward at the second receiver. This gives them the go forward and the quick ball and the offload that they need. And players with the likes of Hanno Dirksen at the end of last season has really injected the confidence and the enthusiasm to go and score tries. That confidence needs to carry through this season. It's also typified with the likes of Rhys Webb. He touches the ball 3 times in this try and he injects some pace. Look for him coming off the bench, and look for this guy. It's a name we will need to get familiar with. It's James King, an athletic, quick, rangy forward. Another underrated player is the versatile Tom Isaac. He likes to go forward, and you can see the enjoyment of the boys queuing up the score and put sides away really in the last quarter of games, which is a tribute to the fitness coaches there. This guy's become a household name, a great fend and a strong step. He makes lots of line breaks in this league. And the guy who takes all the stick but really makes them tick is Daniel Bigger, a consummate professional, a guy who's really maturing and leading the team. But as Jonathan said, I think going into this game, the first game, it's not a fixture I don't think they would be relishing going to Italy tonight. They've never lost the Ospreys to an Italian team, and yet the conditions tonight make it a very tricky fixture indeed.
Let's talk about the Ospreys squad, though. It's very pared down this season. We were looking at the stats earlier, Sean, and 20 players have left, either through transfers or retirements, and just one new arrival in the form of Jonathan Spratt. Have they got the depth of squad to defend their title?
Well, the coaching staff have to run the gauntlet this year. You see Adam's not playing today, Ryan's already picked up an injury, and it's a very difficult balance for them. All the regions have streamlined their squads for obvious reasons, financial implications, and it's very difficult on how to pick games. They've got big games coming up, but at the same token, as Jonathan rightly said, they need to get off to a good start. The end of the season last year was excellent, but it was built on the start of the season during the World Cup and a healthy squad. Now, how they cope this year with that remains to be seen, and they need to get off to a good start tonight.
And you mentioned, Sean, the likes of James King, Tom Isaacs, guys I suppose like Hanno Dirksen and Ashley Beck we were talking about last season, breakthrough seasons for them. Who among James King and Tom Isaacs might be the new Hanno Dirksens and Ashley Becks, if you like?
Well, James King is one. Sam Lewis is playing tonight at 7. Justin Tipperick, Rhys Webb, Ashley, they've come through now, and Sam Lewis and James King are the next. Bevington will get his opportunity this year with Paul James moving on. So it's an interesting tussle in the back row tonight, an abrasive, experienced back row for Treviso against a very young, very athletic and a very good back row. Jonathan Thomas, bit of a point to prove as well. Didn't finish the end of last season. He's back playing with those two, and I think that's going to be a key battle tonight.
Sean, your opinion specifically on the red card, harsh, or did the ref have no choice?
I think he had no choice in the end, Ross. I think, once the first yellow card offence had occurred, it's right in front of him. It's the first game of the season. He's out to impress as well, and he's got an assessor there, so he's got to give it. And I think Jonathan's right. For the first 5 minutes afterwards, the Ospreys were shell-shocked. You could see that. Their body language wasn't good. But it's amazing how much 14 men can galvanise a team, and it's a very important team talk that Steve and Jonathan have to give, and Alan Wynne in there now. And I think Roland's right. They'll shut up shop a little bit. They'll play some territory because they've had too much ball in those conditions. Sometimes it's better to play without the ball, and that'll be a factor in the second half.
Speaking of discipline in general, prior to the red card, the three of us had talked about the poor discipline. In the first 12 minutes, the Ospreys conceded 4 penalties. 3 of which were kickable, and before they knew it, they were 12-0 down.
Well, this is a ball-carrying one, lack of numbers at the tackle contest, and the ref gives a penalty where they get field possession. And they don't need to give Christopher Burton kickable penalties for silly infringements in this area. Couple of offsides, couple of infringements at the tackle area, and he's going to knock them over. That's the only reason he's in that team. This leads to the yellow card. He's frustrated that he's knocked the ball on, and he gives a silly penalty away, and ultimately leads to his red card. You know, it's innocuous, but the ref will give it. And you can see here now it's more of a passive style of defence because it's on the back foot, and Jonathan Thomas gives another simple offside penalty away, and Burton will kick these points. So after 12 minutes and 4 penalties, where, you know, the Ospreys are 9-0 down, and it's a long way to come back then.
Fixture in this opening game, but the conditions have said otherwise, basically.
This is a great break, and it doesn't result in anything. From that next phase, the Ospreys should be on the front foot, but they lose the ball. The next clip is some good quality first phase possession. Ashley Beck cuts a real good unders line. He's half through, but again, the net result is the Ospreys lose the ball, where they should be on the front foot on the next phase. You know, it'd be quite frustrating. You can see, you know, this is unlike the Ospreys carrying the ball, one-up runners. They're not shifting the extra pass and sort of isolating one-on-ones in defence. And I think Jonathan's right. You know, this half will be a little bit more of a dogfight. The half-time team talk will be about that, and they'll need to stay within a score and try and win it at the end.
That was an interesting point there, Sean. Physicality. Not many teams, or the Ospreys bullied quite a few teams last season physically, but Treviso had the edge physically tonight, didn't they?
Well, the selection put paid to that. You know, they went for a very big pack and a good bench to come off and try and seal it at the end. It's extremely disappointing. It's the first time the Ospreys have ever lost to an Italian team, and I think you saw out there was a complete contrast in the quality of both teams, and I think it was just a lack of taking the chances after the early indiscipline that cost the Ospreys.
Watching those back, Sean, how frustrated will Steve Tanley be in the dressing room? Those opportunities were there. Just one of them would have been enough.
They'll be hugely frustrated because, like I say, they would have gone expected to go out and win. Having said that, they have created those opportunities, and there's a lot of positive signs there that there's still the quality there. So the conditions played a huge part in that tonight. You've got to say to Treviso, they played kick-a-tin stuff. It never got it into a second pass. But they're coming home next week, you know, and on a flat track.
That's a big game next week.
And it becomes a big game. We said at the top of the show, you've got to start well, and all of a sudden the pressure comes on.
We can look briefly ahead to the games tomorrow. The Scarlets welcome Leinster, Sean, to the Parker Scarlets. Leinster, of course, the Ospreys' first opponents last season. The Ospreys did a bit of a number on them. Yeah. They arrive in Llanelli tomorrow weekend. Is it a good time for the Scarlets to take them on? Yeah,
it is a good time to get them because some of the internationals will still be on a prolonged pre-season. Having said that, Leinster have a good record down at Parker Scarlets, so you know they won't take them lightly, that's for sure. But you know there is a renewed energy in some of the regions. You know, there's some fresh approach, new coaches, and an injection of new players and young players. I'd expect the Scarlets to take Leinster there tomorrow.
And briefly, Sean, how do you think the Blues will go?
Well, we had a lot of success in Galway. Sometimes it's better not to pick your big names because you don't give them a team talk then. Depends on the weather, but I think they'll just pip them.
OK, good stuff. Well, thanks very much indeed for joining us this evening. First of a new series of Scrum 5 Live. Ultimately, it was a disappointing start to the new season for the Ospreys. The defending champions lost for the first time against an Italian side. They lost 12-6 to Treviso. Stay tuned on BBC Two Wales. Next up, it's Sport Wales with Dot Davis.